Good morning,
And
Ted.
that is it. There we go. That was Billy Ray Cyrus and Achy Breaky Heart. That's a jolly one. Mary Lou was doing line dancing to that. Yes. Last time I did anything on a line like that, it was for drunken driving, I think it was. Something like that. Good morning, Alex. How are you?
Good morning. How are you doing? I'm doing great. How about you?
Good. I'm doing fine. Yes, it's a nice day. The sun's shining.
It is, and I'm a little bit more fond of the parody song by Weird Al Yankovic called "The Achy Breaky Song," where it parodies the fact that that song is a little bit too catchy sometimes, and they kind of overplayed it back in the '90s on the radio.
Guess what? He made a lot of money. Do you think he cares?
Oh, not at all. In fact, if I understand the anecdote correctly, Weird Al Yankovic uh, has this tradition of calling the original artists and asking not for their permissions because
Mm,
they don't need permission to do parody in the U.S., but at least for their blessing. And
right.
what the original authors said was, I'm all for it, but I would like you to make a donation to a charity. And so Weird
That's
Al
nice.
Yankovic did.
Hmm.
He donated the proceeds from the song to the charity of the original author's choice with it, which I think was a really nice gesture.
That's very nice. Yeah, that's good. What a good idea. Perhaps somebody will do a parody of the breakfast show.
I think it's its own parody
Yeah,
sometimes.
I think you're probably right. So you weren't with us last week. Were you busy?
Yes, quite. I've been busy with a whole bunch of things. For example, in a few days, I'm going to be having this webinar regarding how to better use technology in order to either start your own YouTube presence, or if you want to improve the one that you have, and also if you want to go into podcasting, which is also an
Hmm. Hmm.
interesting thing that a lot of people have been going into in these past few months with all the lockdowns and everything else. A lot of people have come out and started to share their passions, what they do, their work, and so on. And they do it through the medium of podcasts, which is actually a lot easier to do nowadays and a lot easier than most people think. So that's going to be an interesting set of things to teach people how to, use the technology that they have to start, or what technology to get if they want to get better at it. So that's
Mm,
going to
I
be an
did.
interesting
Yeah,
thing.
that's a good thing. I mean, perhaps I thought of it, because I love watching when I'm sort of looking to buy things or get out ideas on things. I always go and I watch the unboxing, and I watch them do their sort of tests or whatever. I learn a lot from this, but it's good because we couldn't do these kind of things in the days of yore. We couldn't sort of do the kind of homework we can do now, and it's good to get people's different opinions. But I was thinking perhaps doing the grumpy old man unboxing series. You know, it's like you buy these things and they have these sealed plastic things which are sealed with a heating iron or something. The plastic is quite durable. Have you tried opening one of those?
Yes. In fact, one of the reviews that I'm going to do, I'm going to shut my camera off for a second so I can get
Oh,
it.
that's a relief. Thank you.
You're very welcome. But one of the reviews that I'm going to do in a few days is of this little thing here, which comes in one of those dreadful packages.
Yeah, they're
And
rock hard.
yes, and you have to have either a machete or a blowtorch or something to open them without, and you have to have some sort of a first aid kit and a tourniquet ready just in case you cut yourself on one of
Yeah.
these.
Make sure you got medical insurance before you open this package.
Exactly. This is not for the faint of heart. But just so we're on the subject, you've probably heard of this brand Forza. They do a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
stuff that
absolutely.
have to do with
They do a lot of the UPS, don't they?
UPSs, voltage
Hmm.
suppressors, and things
Hmm.
like that. And I found this little article at one of the hardware stores here in Panama. They sell them all over the place,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
it's an interesting little piece of kit. It's a USB UPS. The
Really?
size, yes, and it's wonderful in the sense that most UPS devices are big because they have all of these transformers and things that they have
Hmm.
to have
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
order to convert the mains electricity into something that can be stored safely on a battery and then provide mains voltage electricity
Hmm.
to whatever you're
Hmm.
connecting to it. But this follows a different principle. what it does is it takes your existing power brick and you connect it to here, and this has a power bank inside. And then you can connect either, let me see, either a USB or another type of, barrel drum cable or whatever
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
your device. So it sits between your power brick and your device, and it provides either 12 volt, 9 volt, or 5 volt electricity to any device. And you'd say, well, what will I use it with? In this case, I'm going to use it with my internet router and my internet device. In this case, what in your case would be a cable modem or a DSL modem. In my case, it's a fiber junction box from Weepit. But the thing is, this will provide me between the 30 minutes and a couple of hours, depending on the load of power, without all the bulkiness of a standard UPS. So I do have UPSs for my machines here and so on, but this will allow me to, even after the UPS has been drained, still have internet access with my phone, for example, for an extra couple of hours. So
I'm trying to get my head around. You connect it in and out, do you?
it's in between. You connect it to the power brick that powers your router, and then you power your router from this
Okay,
module
so
here.
it would the adapter, the main supply to my router, which
Mhm.
dumbs down so that would plug into one side of that, and then
Yeah,
the other side plugs into the router.
exactly. So it doesn't have to have any of the bulky stuff that has to do with mains power. It just
Hmm.
provides standard 12 volt, 9 volt, or 5 volt
Okay.
DC to your device.
What
So you can
about
use it. Mhm.
what about the connectors though? Because they all have different types of connectors.
That's the thing. It comes with a bunch of tips
Oh,
for
that's what I was going
all
to ask you. Oh,
circuit.
brilliant. Okay. Don't want to mention any names, but just tell me which hardware store it was.
It was a do it center, but they had it
Okay.
in a whole bunch of stores. They
That's
retail
interesting.
for
Very
about
interesting.
$30, which is
Hmm.
half the price of most UPSs, and it provides a very, safe way to power multiple devices that use these barrel connectors
Hmm.
in a much more manageable, smaller size. And it doubles as a power bank for your cell phone if you choose to.
Okay. Okay.
So it's
Very
it's a
good.
two-in-one thing.
Okay.
So
That's very
that's
good.
one of the up and coming reviews that I'm going to have on my TV show. So
Okay.
expect that any Thursday soon. Today we're going to talk tonight at 7 p.m. on RPC. We're going to talk about technology in gastronomy. That's all the technology that goes into restaurants and chefs and all of that. We're going to talk about on my show on RPC at 7 p.m. tonight. So be sure to not miss that.
Okay. Make sure you miss that. Now, I tell you what, I just want to get in because last time you were on with us, I
Mhm,
think it was the last time, we talked about routers and we talked about the Linksys as it
mhm.
developed.
Yes.
Well, I bought them.
Oh.
And I bought a pair of them from my friends in Brazil in the
Mhm,
Amazon,
mhm.
and I am impressed, more impressed
Are
than
you?
I thought I would be. I have one. It's replaced my. What's weird, of course, is they don't have these antennas sticking up all over the place, which is, in fact, it's weird. It's rather nice. It looks like a piece of furniture. But I have one here in the study, and you know my setup here. I have one in the lounge. Now we have got these brick walls
Mhm.
here, so we're not like American, where little piggy comes along and he does a huff and a puff and blows the wall down. But so I've got the same setup as before. I've got one here and one in the lounge, but the coverage is a lot stronger. In actual fact, I had this is another little story for you quickly, tech wise, is that we had a message the other week from our friends at Cable and Wireless,
Mhm.
and they said, by the way, we are going to be discontinuing copper in your area, and you have to upgrade to digital.
Mhm.
And so and this is a good one. They give you a number to call 123 extension 9. There is no extension 9, by the way. It doesn't exist. So the good lady and myself, we went to Multiplus, we went to their store there and we queued up, and eventually got in. And the chap was very, very helpful. It took us some while to do all the paperwork. So anyway, they said, that's it. Got home and had a call from Cable and Wireless. Oh, the
Mhm.
mechanics, the technician are coming tomorrow to work on your problem. So, okay, fine. The technicians called the next day and said, by the way, we're working so-and-so, and after we finished here, we're going to come to you. So they kept in touch with us, which is unusual. They came, and in fact, the first thing these technicians did the TV. What was interesting is that the sort of big box that you have for your TV in the room, that's gone. This is like a little, I'm trying to think what's it like. I've got something, it's like one of these little square Bluetooth senders and receivers. It's just a tiny little box with nothing on it, just a tiny little box. And they can wire that into the, with these sort of like computer cables, these type of cables.
Yeah.
And of course, that would have been a pain in the butt. He said, you got Wi-Fi? And I said, yes, I've got Wi-Fi in here. And we got one TV in the lounge and one in the bedroom. So we got another wall to get through. And what he did was he set both of these TVs up with the Wi-Fi system. And he turned around and he said, my God, your Wi-Fi is good and it's quick. Well, of course, it's Wi-Fi 6. And what's interesting, tell me this, because it doesn't give you the option or 5 or 2.4. It does it automatically, doesn't it? Because it didn't give me the option. It doesn't come up and say PBC Studio 2.4, PBC Studio 5. It just comes up and says PBC Studio. But it seems it'll connect the 2.4 device, I guess, to 2.4 and 5. If you've got 5 capability, it does it automatically, I assume.
It does. The fact is, what it does is it sets up multiple Wi-Fi networks with the same name. If you use a Wi-Fi network analyzer, you'll see that you have multiple Wi-Fi networks with the same name. They just have different capabilities. In this case, you'll have one with 5 gigahertz, one with 2.4, and your device is then choosing the better one of them. For example, the one that's 2 walls past
would be 2.4.
Will probably choose 2.4 because it actually will perform better. But the devices within your studio right now, if they support 5 gigahertz, they will just use that and have much better speed because they have a clear line of sight to the router. In fact, the ones that I have, I live on the 7th floor, and I can walk up to the park that's next door and use the Wi-Fi in my apartment just because it just reaches there using the 2.4. If I'm within my studio, it works with 5 gigahertz if the device supports it with no issues. And the great thing is I've got a lot better coverage now with my Ring camera, which, it used to be at the beginning with the previous generations of Wi-Fi, a little bit flaky sometimes, especially if you had like a metal door that would dampen the signal. It's working fine right now. I know the second somebody walks in front of my door.
You know what? You've just reminded me, son, because I haven't changed to the new thing with my Ring doorbell.
Yep.
Which will explain why it didn't ring the other day. So I've got to find out, how do I do that?
Well, you go to
put on the app on your cell phone.
You do on the app, and you go to, basically the app will tell you to take the cap off of the Ring doorbell, then press the reset button that's on top of the doorbell button, and then it will come into what's called a configuration mode. And then you type in the new address and everything. It talks to your phone, and the phone tells the Ring doorbell what network to use. And a couple of seconds later, it's going to be working.
Oh, okay. I'm glad, because I'd completely forgotten about that. It's like we kept losing the WhatsApp the other week on WhatsApp web here on the screen. And they say, here, it's dropped out. Because then I realized, because it was using the LTE, and this is a pre-Pago phone, which doesn't really have data, but it seems to be using some. And I'd realized I hadn't actually changed that phone to the new. There's so many things you have to change. All of my, I had to change all of my, reset all of my switches.
Home automation devices. Yeah.
Yes, that took about a week. And anyway, just quickly.
I'm still in the middle of doing that for mine.
Just quickly, the next day, Cable and Wireless called again, and they sent the guys to do the telephone lines. And in actual fact, they came with another modem, but they used the old big black one that works fine. And I have a telephone line that hasn't worked for about 6 months because people come, they fix it. 2 days later, it's gone again. So I gave up. We just diverted. Man, that is as clear as a bell now because it doesn't use the old system. So I must give credit to Cable and Wireless. The only downside is that they have dumbed down, I noticed yesterday, the speed on my internet. It's gone from 600 to 400 download, and it's gone from 20 upload to 5 uploads. So I've got to get that. So yeah, exactly. So I've got to get that sorted out. Anyway, we digress completely because we want to talk about apps you should have on your phone. What's your best app on? But doesn't this differs for everybody, doesn't it?
It does, but there are some apps that are pretty much universal in the nature that they help you with a lot of things. And one of them, for example, in your particular case right now, would be Speed Test by Ookla. That I use it all
Yeah,
the
I
time
have
just to
that.
make sure.
I agree.
I even actually paid the, I don't know, I think it's $1 or something if you want to pay for no ads on it. And it's a great way to test your network speeds, not only with your existing provider, because you can usually test with your existing provider to see what the speed between you and, in your case, Cable and Wireless is, but you can pick and choose, for example, providers from all over the world to have a basic idea of how fast data can flow from your machine to somewhere else in the world. I use it, for example, if I want to test gaming servers or streaming services and so on. And I also use it when I want to try out how fast and how good a VPN is when I'm using a VPN for whatever reason. I mean, a lot of people use VPNs just for watching stuff that is not allowed in their country or things like that. But I also use it because since I have to run servers all over the world for my clients, I sometimes have to make sure that their services are available for several countries. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to use a Tor browser. I think we've mentioned Tor or the Onion router network before. It's basically a public network of routers all over the world where you can exit your traffic from another country. It's used a lot by dissidents in countries where, there's restrictions on internet access and so on. But one of the other ways that you can test it is to test if services are available outside of your normal country. And it provides an additional layer of privacy. It's not as fast as a VPN, but it can be safer than a VPN, especially if you're working in one of these, countries with internet restrictions. So speaking of browsers, another recommendation that I usually make for people is that if you buy an iPhone, the default browser is usually Safari. If you buy an Android, you get whatever browser you get from the manufacturer. It's usually just a plain browser that's been co-branded. Or Chrome if you have certain devices. That being said, there are two browsers that I recommend people install on their phones as soon as they can. One of them is the Brave browser, which I think you've used as well.
I have that on both my phone and my laptop.
Yeah, and the great thing is it blocks a lot of ads and a lot of fluff from the web pages that you browse, which not only saves you bandwidth, but it also saves you battery in the sense that since the phone doesn't have to render all these ads and all this superfluous stuff that's on these web pages, it just makes the battery last longer. So if you're looking to, get your browsing experience without draining your battery too fast, the Brave browser is great for mobile devices and for laptops as well if you're using them on the go. My main browser of choice, though, is Microsoft's Edge. I mean, after all the debacle with, Microsoft Internet Explorer being slow and sluggish and not supporting all the standards, Microsoft did a whole 180 and just grabbed the code base from Chrome and made it so much better. It's compatible with all the plugins from Chrome, and you can synchronize all your bookmarks, your history, and your passwords and so on with your desktop and other mobile devices. So there's that advantage, and that's why I use it as my main browser. It's lighter than Chrome, uses less memory than Chrome. Chrome is a very, very big, infamously, huge memory hog on any machine that you load it into. So Edge gives you that edge. If you pardon the pun. Speaking of passwords, I've heard that you use, I think it was LastPass or
No, use Dashlane.
Dashlane,
I've done so,
yes.
I've done some for years now.
Yes, Dashlane is one of the other recommended apps that I would tell, I would think most people could benefit from. I mean, you have the problem of having to have separate different passwords for every single website and service out there, because otherwise you're opening yourself up to the risk that if there's a leak on one site, people will be able to log in on your other,
Hmm.
services
Hmm.
using that same password. So Dashlane is one of the services that I would recommend along with 1Password or
Hmm.
LastPass. They are uh, definitely one of the best applications that you can have on your machine. So you don't have to remember all of these passwords.
Sure.
You keep them in one place, and they're all very safe, long, complex passwords generated for you.
Yeah, that's what I like. In fact, it's because I get sick to death of trying to choose a password that I'm going to remember on, but that's what I like, because with Dashlane it will generate, as you say, a strong password which is made up of all sorts of mumbo jumbo, which is harder for it to be cracked. And then of course it is so easy, and you have it on all your devices. I've got it on all my laptops. I've got it on my cell phones. Or whatever. So everything is there at your fingertips. One thing they have done is gone away basically from that app. It's all web-based more now. But I found it scary in the first instance, because do I trust it that I'm going to be able to get hold of that password? But it's worked very well for me for a long time. In fact, I need to go through it now and get rid of some of the old ones that are still lingering. But yeah, good thing. Listen, just quickly, because I've got a question from Renee, one of our listeners, and it's something I think that we always do. I find personally that it does work, but Renee says, look, I've got a computer-related question for Alex. When you get these spam emails that have a tiny print at the bottom or the body of the email, click here to unsubscribe, does that really work? It seems just emails just keep pouring in regardless. I mean, quickly, just my comments, see if you agree. But firstly, when I went over to Google and used them as basically my server, I guess, for emails, I don't get junk email. If I get junk, it's because I've subscribed to it and I've just let it keep coming. And when I do go to unsubscribe, I find 9.5 times out of 10, it works. But some of the spam that you're probably getting, if you don't have that benefit of having, Google standing in between, and that really does work, by the way, then you're probably going to get emails coming in that it won't work. That would be my assessment. Would you agree?
Yes, and not only that, the problem with most unsubscribe links is that they just verify that you are a
That you are
living,
there.
breathing
Hmm.
person, and
Hmm.
it just makes the problem worse because you're confirming your existence to these people. So what you need to do, if using Google or Microsoft as your main email provider, if that's not something that you can do for whatever reason, then the best thing you can do is just mark it as spam, dump it in the junk folder, delete it, and not do what they ask you to do, which is to unsubscribe, because you're
Hmm.
basically verifying your existence. That being said, there's a service that you can use freely or subscribe to if you want to donate, called Spam Cop. What spamcop.net lets you do is to copy the header information from that email and paste it into a form on their website, which will scan it, add it to a database of spammers, and then report whatever links are on the email and whatever servers, whoever owns the server the email came from, they report it to them on your behalf anonymously, and it does work. In fact, I actually tested it once. I reported an email from a test server that I had, and in about a few minutes, I got a report from Spam Cop saying, we got a complaint from for this email that came out of your server at this time from this IP address. Do something about it, otherwise you're going to be listed as a spam source.
Hmm.
So I actually went through the procedure. They acknowledged it in a few minutes as well, said this was just a test, and so on and so forth. and it wasn't added to any blacklist. So if you get very
Hmm. Hmm.
resilient spam from a very specific source, that source will not only be marked as a bad source for most email servers out there, it will probably not even show up in your junk mail folder because most mail providers will just reject it outright. And this
Hmm.
is a message for people who are considering buying mailing lists from these spam providers out there that will sometimes send you emails saying, oh, we've got lists of people who work at the Panama Canal Authority or in the government, or we have the DMV's database and we'll sell it to you for $75 or whatever. A lot of the addresses there are for people who don't uh, have emails at that particular place anymore. Those
Hmm.
mailboxes don't exist. And a lot of people are now donating those unused mailboxes to Spam Cop so that every email that comes in gets reported automatically to Spam
Okay.
Cop.
Hmm.
And the bad thing about that is if your company name is in the email in any way, it's going to get added to the dictionary of spammy words. So it's not just Viagra, it's going to be your company name on the dictionary of spammy words. So your regular email that you use every day for your business is going to be marked as spam and you won't know why. And this
Hmm.
is the reason why, because you're using these spammer advertised lists, which are poisoned, so that if you use them, you're going to make your email undeliverable. So if you're having trouble, delivering your email and people say your email winds up in the spam box or
Hmm.
whatever, let me know. Maybe I can help you sanitize that and make it so that it's not in any blacklists out there and your email gets delivered. It's very important nowadays, email deliverability. And it's one of the most frequent things I have to do for a lot of my customers lately. It's just ensure their email gets delivered properly. And one of the things that you have to do is make sure that the email server that you're using, the IP address that you're using, and the way that you're composing your email doesn't look spammy in the eyes of all the email servers out there.
Okay. And just very quickly, because we're making our way to the top of the hour, which is, would you say, the app that you use the most on your cell phone?
I would say it's called Authy. You've probably heard of Microsoft Authenticator and Google
Right.
Authenticator, which
Hmm.
provides
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
second way to identify yourself to your website so that even if somebody guesses your password, you can still log in a safe manner and people will be
Hmm.
kept out if they don't have it. The problem with Google Authenticator and the problem with Microsoft Authenticator is that if you lose your phone, you have to have one of the backup codes or whatever stored
Okay.
somewhere safe
Hmm.
so you can use it. And the problem with that is that you sometimes lose those backup authentication codes. So it
Mm.
becomes a problem. I've used Authy because Authy provides its own second authentication in case you lose your phone or whatever, so that in case you do lose your phone, you can get back up and running a lot quicker with Authy, that's Authy, than you can with Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator.
How does it work? Because I find that I have to use Microsoft for certain things. I have to use the other authenticator. How do you get them all your authentications in one place?
You disable the one you have, and then you re-enable, but use Authy instead of Google Authenticator or instead of Microsoft Authenticator, and you can consolidate all of them at the same time. They work with the same standard, so they
Hmm.
will all work with Authy.
Okay. All right, Alex. Sounds great. And we're at the top of the hour. So look, thank you very much. And hopefully you'll be with us next week if you're not too busy. But of course, if you are too busy, you're making money, just share it with your friends.
Okay. See you then.
All right, Alex. Alex Newman, Dr. Computer, with us here on this morning's breakfast show.